No es un tiempo para quedarse callado, ¿no? Es un tiempo en estos momentos, realmente en el tiempo donde estamos moviendo hacia la unidad, estamos moviéndonos hacia el apoyo, estamos moviéndonos a un tiempo de conciencia. Y en este tiempo es un momento donde todos tenemos que apoyarnos si queremos llegar realmente a algún tipo de cambio. No podemos estar los latinos por acá, o los asiáticos por acá, o los African Americans por acá. Es un tiempo donde todos crean la unidad porque la unidad está a la fuerza.
My name is L'Oreal Crowder. I'm a longtime resident of Inwood, and I am here today to MC this event. This in particular hits very close to home. So, and it comes on the heels of the news. If folks weren't aware, there was a 65-year-old Filipina woman who was walking to church over on 43rd Street, and she was viciously attacked. She was knocked down to the ground, and the assailant proceeded to use his foot into her head. And this just happened yesterday morning at 11 o'clock in broad daylight. So not only do we have this particular event that happened, we're also joining to commemorate and to host this vigil for the 8 victims, 6 of which who were Asian. As we continue, we're going to have a short program. And in between each of the speakers, we're going to mention the victims of the Atlanta spa shooting. The first 2 victims, Delana Ashley Wong, 33 years old. She was a regular customer at Young's Asian Massage and was preparing for a date with her husband. Her husband survived after he locked himself in the bathroom. Deo Yu Feng, 44 years old. She had just started working at Young's a couple months ago. She appears to not have any family members in the United States. Her body lay unclaimed in the morgue for 7 days. Let's take a moment of silence, please.
Thank you for joining up here today for the first of what I hope will be many events across the entirety of Uptown NYC that will spur real talk about things that there's been very little dialogue about. My name is Veronica Santiago Liu. I'm a Hakka Chinese Filipinx Canadian. I'm the founder and general coordinator of Word Up, a bookshop and community space that is operated by a multi-ethnic, multiracial collective of people who mostly live or work uptown. And for the last 19 years, I've been your neighbor here in Washington Heights. I've given some version of that introduction many times before at community events, before book talks or panels. Those have all been moments when I've found protection in using the we. All of us together, we make a space. We value our story. We value our story. But the murders 2 weeks ago And many instances in the past year have had me examining that sentence. For the last 19 years, I've been your neighbor here in Washington Heights because of what it also leaves out. It leaves out 19 years of racial slurs. Sometimes as I'm walking to Word Up, sometimes in Word Up. It leaves out a few brief moments of paralyzing fear, especially when crossed with deeply gendered action. But maybe worst of all, it leaves out 19 years of a strange invisibility. With the flourishing of Word Up, I've been eager to build with people, to share with people inside and outside of Word Up what I've learned and what more I can learn of the community in which I reside and work and consider home. But I've also, time and again, sat in spaces, sometimes decidedly activist spaces, where people will explicitly ask me to pick my brain on how to reach our community. Then we'll lay out who that is, who is the community they see, and they will not see Asians, will not see me. Worse yet is when there's very explicit talk of solidarity across so many different kinds of groups, and more than once in the middle of such a righteous speech, someone will make fun of Asians to my face. And in those moments, I'm slapped. I don't know what to do, and I haven't exercised that muscle enough to speak out. It's a very individual level. Because I feel that other stuff too, about how it's not that individual. It's a whole system we're up against. I know we can't lose sight of the bigger monsters of white supremacy and the ongoing effects of colonialism and imperialism. When you say something terrible to me on the street, I don't want to call the cops. But I want someone to say something. And in the past week, I've been reckoning with the fact that not enough have here due to all those complexities. And that science renders the issue even more invisible. There was someone who I really wanted to have speak today because of the inspiring story she has, which has had a great effect on many immigrant communities. And she too is an Uptown resident. I was going to take comfort in the fact that she is more used to speaking out. But she was unable to tendinate because she too has been attacked in the past year. It is too much to put such a burden of voice on so few people. There's someone else who I thought of a lot when thinking about tonight. He's someone who is an Uptown neighbor and a Word Up collective member who moved out of the neighborhood, moved out of the country, in part because of the daily verbal abuse he endured here, in part because of the multiple acts of physical violence he endured here, and most of all, because of what he felt was a hesitancy to engage in a dialogue about it all, even at Word Up, because it was too hard. There's so much. And I didn't want that opportunity to pass again, I guess, is what spurred me to be terrified about sending the texts that then led to the forming of this event. Even when I was terrified, hitting send on the Word Up newsletter, and I am feeling solace in the fact that there were many people who listened to that over the past few days and helped this event come into existence, and who have pledged to make this just the first of many. It's not all doom and gloom. I do also every day see examples, live the examples with many of you here of that solidarity across different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different races. There is a deep history of that solidarity across communities of color, across immigrant communities. if you need to read up on them, there's some bookstores close by now. And it's hard for me too. Maybe most of all, I think, I don't know, I feel so much weight on this moment of what I never finished writing down, because I don't want this moment to be the last, because it's a moment that I feel has almost not existed before in all these 19 years. And so I hope that we all do this. You keep me accountable too. That we just practice this every day, looking out for each other, standing up for each other. We can't have it wear on our mental health. We all need each other to keep what we're doing going. Thank you.
We are going to sort of pick up the mood a bit. I'd like to see if folks are familiar with a couple chants. Who's ready? Any? Oh, there you go. Okay. Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what Uptown looks like.
This is what Uptown looks like.
Show me what Uptown looks like.
This is what Uptown looks like.
Show me what solidarity looks like.
This is what solidarity looks like.
I can't hear you.
This is what solidarity looks like.
Mention two more of the victims from the Atlanta spa shooting. Zhao Tan, 49 years old. She was the owner of Young's Asian Massage and also Wang's Feet and Body Spa. She was going to celebrate her 50th birthday the next day. She has two older sons who adored her. Hyun Jung Grant. She was a single mother of two adult children who dedicated her whole life to provide for her two sons. Before she came to the United States, she was a school teacher in Korea. Let's please take a moment of silence for the two victims.
It's really nice to see all of you today. Today was a hard day to wake up to. I woke up to the news of a 65-year-old Pinay Filipina American who got stomped on her face while walking to church. I woke up to the news of a 19-year-old Filipina American woman who was shot in the eye in San Francisco over the weekend. Every week, there's something new. Every week, it gets harder and harder. Every week, it gets closer and closer to home. I thought it was close to home when a couple months ago, we learned that Angelo Quinto, a 30-year-old Filipino American, was killed in Antioch, California by police officers who put a knee to his neck and his back. The same way that George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis earlier that year. The same trial that Derek Chauvin is being tried for. But we might not know that because it seems like George Floyd is on trial for murder. I thought it was too close to home when a month ago we learned about Juanito Falcon, a Filipino-American grandfather, a lolo, who was killed in Arizona. He left behind lots of grandchildren, nephews, nieces, children who can't understand why their grandfather and their father is. I thought it hit close to home when you heard about Sutnam Singh in Utah, or most recently, the Uber driver in Washington, D.C. I have not yet known his name or memorized his name because it's been so soon. I thought it hit so close to home when the 8 victims in the Atlanta spa shooting were killed, 6 of them Asian American, many of them immigrants, or all of them immigrants, and all of them women. One of the things that I study is the impact of racism, the impact of homophobia, of sexism, of microaggressions, of systemic oppression, and the intersectionalities of all of those things on the mental health, physical health of people of historically marginalized groups. We now are at over 500,000 people in this country have died. Millions of people across the world have died. That's already hard enough. And now for some of us, we have to deal with an additional piece. And I'm not just talking about Asian Americans. Asian Americans have to deal with hate violence, walking down the street, fearing that somebody might just come out of nowhere and kick you to the ground and stomp you to your head. But other marginalized groups have to think about things too. Black people have to think about getting killed by police officers. Black mothers have to worry about whether or not their children are going to come home. Undocumented people have to worry about whether or not this is the day that somebody's going to call ICE on them and that they're going to have to leave the only land that they know is their own. What does radical healing mean? Radical healing means that we all have the opportunity and the charge to ensure that our communities can heal from trauma, that we all work collectively to ensure that we are doing everything possible to ensure that we are healing as a people, that people of historically marginalized groups are healing too. This is healing for me, to see your faces here, and I challenge all of us to take that extra step. When we leave here, we go back into our families, to our respective communities, our respective friends, families, co-workers, loved ones, etc. We have to have these conversations still. We can't just be in reaction to violence. We have to be proactive too. We have to call out any anti-Asian sentiment that occurs. We also have to call out any anti-Black sentiment that occurs, any sexism, any misogyny, any transphobia. We all have to do our parts. And every single day, I hope you all remember that if you think you're doing enough, you probably aren't, and that you have to do more. Because the only way that we truly are going to heal is if we all collectively do our parts. I'm going to end now by teaching you all a Filipino chant, Tagalog chant. I have the words here. It says, Maki Baka. Can you repeat with me? Maki Baka. And then, Wag Magtakot. Wag Magtakot. So I'm going to give you the easy part. I'm going to give you Maki Baka. So say Maki Baka. And then I'm going to say Wag Magtakot. And then you're going to say Maki Baka. Okay, all you have to know is Maki Baka, all right? So I'm going to say Wag Magtakot. Wag Magtakot. Wag Magtakot. Wag Magtakot. So what you just shouted was revolution. And what I just shouted was live with no fear. And so I truly believe that if we want to start the revolution, we want to fight the struggle, we have to live without fear, and we all have to do it together. So thank you very much, Maraming Salamat. Thank you so much for being here. I love you all.
So, as we continue with the program, I would like to recognize two more of the victims. Soon Chung Park, 63 years old, recently moved to Atlanta by way of New York City. And she was planning to return after finishing work at Gold Spa. She was dearly loved for being a maternal figure, preparing food for the employees at the spa, and keeping the space tidy. Soon Cha Kim, 69 years old, leaves a husband of more than 50 years, 2 children and 3 grandchildren. She also worked at Gold Spa and liked to line dance. Please let's take a moment for these 2 individuals.
Gives me hope and solace to be here in community with my neighbors from Uptown.
Thank you so much for your words. We do need to know how to show up and stand beside our Asian and AAPI individuals. The last 2 victims. Young A.U. leaves a husband, 2 children, and grandchildren. She loved to cook amazing Korean food and enjoyed karaoke. Paul Andre Michaels. Michaels was a U.S. Army veteran who had been married for more than 2 decades and owned a home security system company. He was hired by Youngs to install the surveillance system. Let's take a moment for these 2 individuals. Next, I would like to introduce Miss Maria Lizardo, Northern Manhattan Improvement Corporation Executive Director.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank all our neighbors who showed up tonight and who are standing in solidarity with our Asian brothers and sisters. This is what community looks like. And I want the rest of the world to know that Uptown will stand up and will stand with our Asian communities. Estoy muy agradecida de todos ustedes que vinieron esta noche para pararnos al lado de nuestra comunidad asiática. El resto del mundo tiene que saber que la comunidad de Uptown siempre va a decir presente y siempre vamos a estar al lado de nuestras hermanas y hermanas. Gracias.
Filipino lives are under attack. What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When Chinese lives are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When South Asian lives are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When Asian lives are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When Asian lives are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When Filipino lives are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When Chinese lives are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When South Asian lives are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back! Stand up, fight back!
I'm just going to list out our co-sponsors and the people and offices who have supported this event. The Office of the Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer. The Office of the New York City Comptroller, Scott Stringer. The Office of Assembly Member Al Taylor. Office of Assembly Member Carmen de la Rosa. Office of New York State Senator Robert Jackson. Altagracia Faith and Justice Works. Community League of the Heights. Northern Manhattan Improvement Corporation, People's Theater Project, the Uptown Collective, School in the Square, Sisters Uptown and Cultural Center,
Bookstore and Cultural Center, New York Presbyterian, Uptown Progressive Action, Uptown Dreamers, Washington Heights Inwood Corporation, Word Up Community Bookshop, and Congressman Espaillat.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Coach Dave. This is my neighborhood. I've lived here all my life. That's my school, PS 128, right there, that I graduated from in another century. That's my neighborhood, below 165th to 159th, where we work. We do a lot of different things for the community. I'm here to speak to you on behalf of Uptown Dreamers, who are really sorry about the violence and hate that happened. We're very sorry that another race has to feel the violence and hate that my people feel all the time, every time since we've been born. I got a call from one of my classmates, and she's Asian, and she said, I never knew what it felt like until it happened to my people. She says, Coach, I know you go to these things all the time, and you see tragedies all the time, but once it happens to you, it feels different. I'm here to speak against hatred. I'm here to speak against violence against all humans. I'm here to speak against violence and hatred against all humans, regardless of what race they are. And one of the biggest comments she said to me that really hit home was, she said, and then they try to justify it by saying he had a bad day. Then they try to say it's okay, he had a bad day. And she said, now I know how you felt when they killed the bunch in Charleston and they took them to get water and food. You understand? Our people go home in body bags and other people get treated like they have a bad day. So in all this pain and in all this anger, we still have to find some joy. And the reason why I tell you that is because there's some people who've been fighting against hatred and violence in this neighborhood every single day. There's some people who, they live their lives trying to make things better. We see them here right now in this community, Maria Luna, all right? We see Maria Lozado. We see the Cloth family. We see all these different people who care. But the one person I want to talk to you about today, because she's been helping my people for the longest time. Her office, her program is not on Haven Avenue. It's not up in Inwood. She's on 165th and Amsterdam Avenue. She's the director and founder of the Word Up bookstore. My kids call it the Little Library. When we don't have no place to go, we go there. Her staff is diverse. They treat our kids well. She's been fighting against hatred, violence, and prejudice ever since she opened up that store on 165th and Amsterdam Avenue in the belly of the beast in the hood. She's there to help make things better. While other people pretend like they care, pretend like they want to help, she's dealing with families all the time. She's not just doing books. They're doing COVID testing. They're giving out books. They're cooking on the street, feeding the hungry and the homeless. Whatever service you need, she's trying to provide it. It all started with a bookstore, but now it's a community bookstore. And one of the things she did for me very special, when they started honoring all the people who violently died from the cops, a dreamer was shot down by the cops on 164th Street, and they forgot about him. Veronica made sure she put my boy Twin up on the list, one of my first kids to lose to the violence. So I understand her pain. I understand her hatred of people who do the wrong things. Veronica, you gotta come up here for me. I got something for you. You gotta come on up, Veronica. I didn't know how I was gonna do this, but this is my sister in the struggle. When everybody else shut down, closed up, she found a way to keep our community going, making people happy, doing different events in our neighborhood. As a representative of the Uptown Dreamers, as a representative of Uptown for Life, you have your official Uptown for Life shirt. Because in everything that we do, yes, we're hurting. But because of folks like Veronica and all of you are here, we're going to get through this. All of you here together, we got to keep standing together to make Uptown stay strong, stop the hate, stop the violence.
So thank you all for showing up today. Just take a moment to look at your neighbors. And now what we're going to do is we're going to invite the elected officials to speak. At this moment, we would like... Where'd my list go? Congressman Adriano Espaillat. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. This is an important fight to heal our nation. After rough time in the past few years, we must all now come together to heal the soul of our nation, to make sure that we not only love each other, but that we are assertive in rejecting hate and hate crimes against anyone. Anyone. Those are intolerant, have no space in this city, have no space in our neighborhood. And so I want to thank you for showing your solidarity for the Asian AAPI community in a time of difficulties across the nation and right here in New York City as well. And so it's going to take many of these events for us to show the rest of the world and the rest of our country that we will not stand up, we will not stand by folks that hate, that perpetrate hate, violence against others because of their differences. We are a very diverse community. We stand in the shadow of the Audubon Ballroom. It has a history. We've come together before and we come together tonight to tell our Asian AAPI brothers and sisters that we stand with them and that we will not allow anyone to spew or perpetrate hate against them. Estamos aquí en apoyo a la comunidad asiática. Esta vez estamos aquí para enseñar solidaridad con ellos a través del país y aquí mismo en la ciudad de Nueva York. Son víctimas de asaltos raciales y por eso estamos aquí para decirle que no aceptamos ese tipo de acción racista en contra de nuestros hermanos asiáticos y estamos aquí para apoyar el amor y la tolerancia. Gracias. Good night.
Thank you very much for your words. I'd like to welcome Assembly Member Carmen de la Rosa, please.
Good evening, neighbors. I want to thank the organizers of this rally, most especially Veronica Liu, her family, L'Oreal, who's our MC tonight, and Cynthia Carrion, my friend and neighbor. We are here because every single time that we have been confronted by acts of hate, our community has come together. It is important for us to learn from the incidents that we are seeing across our city that we cannot be bystanders to hate because we become accomplices to hate and racism. And that stokes fear in our neighbors. I'm here as your neighbor tonight. I'm your assemblywoman, I'm your representative. We're actually still in session in my pocket, but there's no other place I'd rather be because when they come for one of you, they come for me. When they come for one of us, they come for all of us. And I am here to stand in solidarity with our Asian brothers and sisters. Let us not close doors when we see people being kicked, being harassed, being made fun of, being bullied. Don't be bystanders. Be brave. Show your faces. Stand in solidarity with our neighbors. Veronica, your words tonight broke our hearts. You should never feel invisible. You should never feel erased. And all of us are here in solidarity, I think, committing to make sure that you never feel that way again. We love you. We love you. We are here for you. We will stand with you. We will stand up for you because you shouldn't have to say it. We should be saying it for you. And so tonight, I just want to leave you with this. I love you, I love you, I appreciate you, and I will continue to stand with you. God bless you.
I would like to introduce Ms. Kiana Diaz from Councilmember Idanis Rodriguez's office.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out tonight in support of the AAPI community. I just wanted to say a few words. And by the way, thank you to the organizers. I think this is an amazing event and very much needed in this community. Earlier today, I saw a video that truly disturbed my soul. There was an Asian American lady that was attacked on 43rd Street. And the attacker was, while he was hitting her, basically told her, "You don't belong here." In that video, I saw two heinous crimes. Number one, the attacker, and the second heinous crime was the bystander that stood by and not only saw what was happening, but literally went and closed the door to the building and didn't address anything that happened with that lady. When we talk about earlier, a gentleman was saying that you think you can do more than you should. And there's no place for that in New York City. They spoke about, oh, we need to rescue the soul of this nation. We need to start by rescuing the soul of the city. The city was built on immigrants. And we as a city need to take our power back. It should not be acceptable in the city. And when we see something, we should do something about it. We shouldn't close the door on our neighbors. And that's all I have to say. And thank you so much. And in solidarity, we'll stand with you.
Mariela de la Cruz from New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer's office.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maria de la Cruz. I am here representing Comptroller Scott Stringer. I don't want to be here, right? None of us want to be in this space. We don't want to continue coming together because we don't see each other's humanity. So I'm glad that Veronica and a few other folks said we need to do something. We need to be present. Uptown is always there when something bad happens, and I would love for us to get together when great things happen as well. So I would say solidarity within our communities, solidarity with each other, and we have to continue the conversation. We cannot have these conversations that are just glazing over what the real issues are. If we don't see each other as human beings, we will never be a great society. So I'm sorry to be here today, but I am happy that we came together to support one another. Thank you very much.
So we're going to wrap up the event. And in doing so, we are going to practice our Filipino once again. So for folks who would like to do a callback, I will say Maki Baka. And the response is Huwag matakot. It means struggle, don't be afraid. Maki Baka. Waki Baka. Huwag matakot. Maki Baka. So thank you to everyone who's braved the cold weather and all the speakers that came up to speak and the elected officials as well. We also would like to thank the organizing individuals who made this event possible, and particularly Veronica. So thank you very much on behalf of the planning committee and Word Up Bookstore.